Hey, John.
Hey, Eric. How are you tonight?
How's it going? I'm good. I'm good. Back from the trip,
The Lone Star State,
the Texas barbecue state,
you know,
which was quite tasty, by
Texas barbecue is yummy. I must say that. Yes. I think we were into the state for all of maybe an hour by the time we
we arrived at Hutchins an hour after landing. It's pretty darn close.
I was told that one of the people we were with the next day had said that they were sitting over in the bar and were like, "Oh, hey, there's Jon and Eric. Maybe we should go to dinner with them." And they were told, "Well, so long as you want to go to Texas barbecue, you probably can." But this person was actually a vegetarian, and they were like, "Oh, okay, maybe not."
Yeah. Not a lot of vegetarian options at Hutchins.
Yeah.
Yeah. But my favorite part of that was I remembered this time to get a bottle a bottle of the Hutchins Brisket Seasoning because it's very tasty seasoning.
Mm-hmm.
And so I grabbed one before we checked out.
Yes.
And then the route home, I know you were there, but for everybody else, my bag gets pulled off to the side. And I'm like, I don't know what I have in the bag.
What do I have in the bag?
Oh, let me just side trip really quick. I made it through Portland to Dallas with my pocket knife in my pocket, which I panicked about. I mean, and it's not a big knife. It's just one of those little tiny Swiss Army knives with like scissors, nail file, and a small knife that's like 1.25 inches long. I could annoy somebody on the plane with it, I think. But that I love that thing because I use it all the time.
Left it. Yeah.
I left it in my pocket and didn't even think about it as I was going through. I just pulled everything out of my pocket, threw it in my backpack, and ran it through the scanner. Made it through. Anyway, so I ended up FedExing that home. So on the way home, my bag gets pulled over.
You're like, wait, I FedExed my knife home.
It's not the knife. What could it be? And the guy, and I can't touch it. He's got to open it, and he's rooting around inside, and he pulls out my bottle of Hutchins Brisket Seasoning. I'm like, crap.
Are you allowed to remove this from Texas?
Does that fit the, it's not a liquid, so, what? And so he's like, well, this is it. And he rubs it with whatever they do, and he ran it through, and it came back clean. And then he says, all right, now please open it. It's sealed shut. And he's like, you need to open it. I'm like, okay. So I open it, and maybe he would just see the seal and then go, okay, go. And he's like, you have to open the seal. I'm like, aw. So I open the seal, and he pours a little bit of the brisket seasoning onto these little pads and then tests that for what I can only imagine. But that passed. And
drugs.
Yeah. So anyways, it made it through. But
is it the paprika, the cayenne powder, the pepper, the salt?
Which triggered it. But criminal mind that I am, I was able to get my Hutchins Brisket Seasoning home with me. So
well played, sir. Well played.
I look forward to using that on the barbecue.
Well,
this summer.
It is the exact same thing that I put on my brisket 2 weeks ago now, I guess at this point, a week and a half ago. And I thought it was quite tasty. The rest of the family thought it was too peppery.
Okay.
But
I'll keep that in mind.
I might have I used it liberally, let's say.
You're supposed to, but
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I left, I wrapped it in saran wrap and I put all the seasoning on, wrapped it in saran wrap, put it back in the fridge for 24 hours.
Yeah, because,
that's what I did.
That's what you're supposed to do.
Well, that's what
I don't know what you've done wrong yet.
So, well, it was good. I think what I did wrong is it really could have probably used another 2 or 3 hours on the grill at the end of the day. What I did wrong.
It's still a little tough.
Well, just not as tender as it could have been.
Fall apart in your mouth.
But anyway. But yes, take your time. And don't when you say you're going to put it in at 7 o'clock in the morning, put it in at 7 o'clock in the morning. Don't forget until 10, and then throw it in and be like, yeah, we'll just have a late dinner. Like at the end of the day, like you can't rush brisket.
No.
So anyway. Well, I have like no major updates for this past weekend because yes, I mean we went to the symphony, that was really cool. But otherwise I think I just worked at mostly outside work. Did my whole jury rig the boom sprayer up to the tractor and spray the parking lot and keep all the weeds.
Nice.
It's ridiculous how many weeds grow. So. If I don't have a solution other than I'm like I tried to go a couple years without like chemicals and I'm like, here's my solution. Now I wear a mask.
There you go.
Anyway, well, hey, so let's dive right in. What did you bring for topics tonight?
So mine was actually kind of fun. There was a phishing attack using the Nespresso. Whatever, espresso
coffee makers?
coffee machines. So there was an open redirect vulnerability. So not on the coffee machines themselves.
Oh, so it wasn't on the coffee
website.
Machines themselves.
No, so not as fun as it could have been.
Okay, but it's like whoa.
No, but an open redirect vulnerability. That's where you have a website, a legitimate website, which allows somebody to put a parameter that redirects you to that website. So it looks like it comes from it's a way that you can get around going directly to scammy sites. You have a legitimate site redirect you to a scammy site.
Right.
And apparently Nespresso had an open redirect vulnerability, and Perception Point, company Perception Point, security researchers discovered this phishing campaign targeting users by exploiting said open redirect vulnerability. So the attack...
So the URL or URI in the email was to a Nespresso path.
Right. So you get an
question
email...
mark, navigate to blah, blah, blah.
You get an email, and it shows up in your inbox. The sender is unaffiliated with, it says, in this instance, a very strange email that at first glance appears to be a multi-factor authentication request from Microsoft, but the email sender is unaffiliated with Microsoft. So you get a email from somebody that says, hey, you need to, here's your second factor. You click OK for a Microsoft email. And then the bottom of the message, the email seems to be forwarded twice, it says. And so it kind of loops around and trying to forward you, and then anyways, the attackers are actually are like, regardless of the convoluted details, the overall message is clear. There is an urgency for the recipient to check their recent login activity. They click on the link and they go to the infected Nespresso URL, so the open redirect, and that follows a redirection to an HTML file. And using that open redirect is to evade the security measures. And so, some attackers know that some security vendors only inspect the initial link and not the redirections. And so they can redirect you from what you think is a legitimate site, Nespresso.com, to something less reputable. And that's how that one ended up. So just because the link looks legit, may end up redirecting you somewhere that ain't so legit. Duct tape and baling wire.
That's hard. That's hard for a human to figure out, other than like looking at who's it from.
Right.
Assuming that you have a email host that validates from addresses, but
right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's tricky.
Anyways, what'd you bring?
I have two. The first is a antivirus service that for 5 years was evidently serving its data updates or content updates or signature updates over HTTP, and for at least 5 years, and have been man-in-the-middled and used to deliver the main thing there they seem to have been delivering was a coin miner, which given the semi-sophistication of the attack, it seems kind of surprising that what they're doing is delivering a coin miner, but okay. So this is a AV service called eScan, headquartered in India.
Okay.
And, essentially, since they were using HTTP, well...
Like HTTP versus HTTPS, or just...
Yes, but at the end of the day, like, even if you're using HTTPS, you should still have a signature, some signing on whatever package you're delivering so that it can't be tampered with. That's the integrity and confidentiality, integrity and availability. You should still have had a signature on your content so that it couldn't be manipulated and you would load it. And they did not do that. So not only did they not have signed content, they delivered the content over unsecured, easily interceptable protocol. So yes, they were. So this is like, hey, it's the HTTP thing. And to be honest, like that's not, yes, okay, you should like these days you should totally be using HTTPS. Like there's no reason not to. It's silly that you would not in this day and age. But at the end of the day, in my opinion, that's not the real sort of issue here. The issue was that the actual content wasn't signed and validated regardless. But anyway, so it says, here's a quote from it was a pair of Avast researchers that did this. The sophisticated operation has been performing man-in-the-middle attacks against targeting an update mechanism of the eScan antivirus vendor. We disclosed the security vulnerability to both eScan and the India CERT and received confirmation on 2023-07-31. So that was, 9 months ago.
Yeah.
From eScan that the issue was fixed and successfully resolved. So here's a couple other things about this. It says the researchers were surprised that malware that took such pains to fly under the radar would install a cryptocurrency miner, which is by its nature very easy to detect. So, sophisticated hiding and you're
free money. Oh,
displaying a neon sign. Okay. Okay. Anyway,
all right.
It says one possibility is the attacker's possible connection to Kimsuki, the tracking name for a group backed by the North Korean government. Over the years, the North Korean government has generated billions of dollars in cryptocurrency through malware installed on the devices of unwitting victims. The researchers made the possible connection after finding similarities between a known Kimsuki keylogger and code fragments used during the Gupta miner operation. So there's that. And then, as I was reading the article, the whole notion of it's not the protocol, it's the signing of the content that was going through my head. And there is, like right at the very end, there is a quote on this that says, I was like, okay, fine. At least you said that. So it says, the last kind of paragraph I pulled out was, the Gupta miner attack is notable for exposing major shortcomings in eScan that went unnoticed for at least 5 years. Besides not delivering updates over HTTPS, a medium not susceptible to man-in-the-middle attacks. Yes-ish. If you, anyway.
If you squint.
Yeah. Are you pinning the cert? Are you, does the attacker have the ability to install certificates on the endpoint? Anyway, let's see. Besides not delivering updates over HTTPS, eScan also failed to enforce digital signing to ensure updates hadn't been tampered with before being installed. That's the money.
That's the money line
sentence right there.
Yeah.
So, representatives of eScan didn't respond to an email asking why engineers designed the update process this way. I will just go back to something we've said a number of times over the years. Security is hard. Security is hard. And there are many, many, many painful lessons that have been learned the hard way in any company that's been around, and the eScan development team, I'm sure, learned a very hard lesson here. So there you go.
Yep.
So that was topic number 1. Topic number 2 was literally as I was like, oh, I was going to do this, I was just kind of poking around if there was anything else. Risky Biz email dropped in my inbox, and I was like, ooh, whoa, this is going to be an interesting one. So this is Cisco Zero-days. It says a suspected state-backed hacking group is exploiting 2 zero-days in Cisco ASA security appliances as part of a campaign targeting government networks globally. So a Cisco ASA appliance stands for Adaptive Security Appliance. It's basically all-in-one edge device that has firewall, AV, intrusion prevention, and VPN capabilities. But so Cisco announced it this week as they were releasing patches for the 2 0-days. But they said in here that the 0-days were how the attackers gained control and persistence on the devices, but it doesn't. They don't know how, or they didn't say how the attackers got onto the device in the first place to use the first 0-day. So here's a couple other things about this that I pulled out. So it says it links the attacks to a group it tracks as UAT 4356. I actually don't know who that is or who they suspect it to be, but it says that Cisco says the group has also targeted perimeter network devices from other vendors as well as Microsoft Exchange email servers. The two malware strains that were deployed are named Line Dancer and Line Runner. Line Dancer is a memory implant that was used to deploy Line Runner, which was the backdoor that could enabled the attacker to run commands on the infected devices. So this is it seems like it's, breaking, sort of happening today, last few, 24 hours kind of thing. But the final comment, so sort of watch this space, let's see what happens. But the final thing I pulled out, kind of two things, I guess I pulled out at the end here. One of which it says that Microsoft is also tracking the group under a Storm 1849. And so the quote is, expect a report from MSTIC in the coming days or weeks. And then the last thing I pulled out was a post by Gossie the dog, Kevin Beaumont, that says, here, I'll just read it. The compile dates on the latest Cisco ASA patches are all over a month ago. Media were briefed about the problem in advance under embargo before customers knew. Some Cisco security competitors knew months ago as Cisco told them, and they also talked to media in advance. Feels great being a Cisco customer. So the customers were evidently the last to know as a patch was available. I guess I also pulled out the timeline because the timeline that they have shows that it goes back to last July of 23. It says actor begins developing and testing attack. Attacker infrastructure was stood up in November. Early January was the first confirmed activity observed by a victim. February, additional compromised devices identified, and then late March, early April, software patches available. Although I would point to the fact that it is April 25th as we are here, so that is not late March / early April. But hey, I'm just living over here in reality here. So anyway, there you go. Those are my two topics. So cool. Probably more to watch on the Cisco space in the next week, I'd say.
All right, you ready for some other thing that probably is going to blow your reality mind?
Blow my reality mind. Okay.
Yeah.
Hit me with it.
All right. What happens to water when you heat it up?
It evaporates.
Correct. But
it undergoes a phase transition from liquid to gas.
Did you know that researchers at MIT recently discovered a surprising photomolecular effect that actually proves that just light without heat can also vaporize water.
No. Is this a trick question?
No, that's real. So this is an article from MIT that they have discovered a way to get water to evaporate just by light. So no heat, just light itself. And so I'll read a couple things here. So the evaporation of water from surfaces of oceans and lakes, the burning off of fog in the morning sun, the drying of briny ponds that leave solid salt behind, evaporations all around us. Humans have been observing it and making use of it as long as we have existed. However, we've been missing a major part. In a series of painstakingly precise experiments, a team of researchers at MIT demonstrated that heat isn't alone in causing water to evaporate. Light striking the water's surface where the air and water meet can break water molecules away and float them into the air, causing evaporation in the absence of any source of heat.
Whoa. Okay.
So,
I mean, now that you say it that way, it sort of makes sense. I mean, a photon if a photon happens to hit a molecule, the odds are low, but quantities are high.
Yeah. So the cool thing about this is, so you can now start to think of that like the wide range of significant implications they talk about. So one of the things is they're saying, will this actually solve an 80-year-old mystery in climate science? So this is news to me. You can measure how clouds absorb sunlight, and they have often shown that they are absorbing more sunlight than conventional physics dictates possible. And so they're thinking now that this additional evaporation caused by this effect could account for the long-standing discrepancy, which has been the subject of dispute since such measurements are very difficult to make anyways. So
interesting.
The experiments are based on satellite and flight data. You fly an airplane on top of and then below the clouds, and then there are also data based on ocean temperature and radiation balance. And they all conclude that there is more absorption by the clouds than theory could calculate. However, due to the complexity of clouds and difficulties of making such measurements in clouds, researchers have been debating whether such discrepancies are real or just you didn't measure it right. And so this discovery that, hey, light alone without heat can also cause evaporation could actually account for what those discrepancies in the 80-year-old mystery of cloud absorption might actually be. So there's my something fun, a little bit of science. Go read the full MIT report on it. But I thought that's kind of cool.
That's very cool.
Not just heat can evaporate.
That's very cool.
Create evaporation. So there you go. That's my science fun this week.
Okay. Well, I find that to be sufficiently fun. Yes, that is awesome. That is awesome. Okay, my something fun is a follow-up fun. Nice. I was going to do it as follow-up, but I was like, this is actually pretty darn cool. We'll just do it as a full-on something fun. Yeah. So 5 weeks ago, in episode 328, my something fun was the fact that they had sent a message to Voyager 1, and
which
basically
is
telling
quite a ways away from here.
Dump its memory. Yeah, it's like what was it, a 20-something hour round trip. So not only have they been diagnosing this, they've figured out what it is, and they have a path to successfully not rebooting, but getting it back functional, getting Voyager back essentially fully functional. Although I'm not entirely sure how they do fully functional, but there's not enough data here to know. But so here's the deal. So as we talked about a couple weeks ago, back in November, it stopped transmitting science and data. So stopped transmitting science and engineering data on November 14th. Instead, it just started sending a bunch of gobbledygook. I think that was the official NASA word. I jest.
Okay.
But and remember, it was in the flight data system that was what they were trying to look at. And sure enough, so it turned out so here's the quote is the core. Backing up a little bit. It says, thanks to some creative thinking, the team identified a broken chip on the spacecraft and relocated some of the code that was stored there, according to the agency. So the core of the problem turned out to be a faulty chip hosting software, code, and part of the FDS, the Flight Data System memory. NASA doesn't know what caused the chip to stop working. Could have been a high-energy particle from space that collided with it. The chip might just have, quote, run out of steam. I'm pretty sure NASA didn't say the chip ran out of steam because that's not the world we live in.
Maybe there's water on it and light hit it.
Steam is not in chips. Steam is not in chips. Steam is not in chips. Anyway, after almost 50 years spent hurtling through the cosmos. So anyway, but here's the thing, it's just insane how, they're, I forget how many million miles away, and people are literally there's a picture in the article, a bunch of normal looking people sitting around a conference room table with a couple boxes of donuts, talking to the very slow, very distant computer.
15 billion miles away, to be precise.
Thank you for your precision. I appreciate the pedanticism.
24 billion kilometers for our metric friends.
That is awesome. But so here's the deal. It says, so to receive usable data again, the engineers needed to move the affected code somewhere else that wasn't broken. But no single location in the FDS memory was large enough to hold all of the code. So the engineers divided it into chunks and stored it in multiple places per NASA. The team started with moving the code responsible for sending Voyager status reports. So what do you want to do if you move fast? The first thing you got to do is measure. So the team started moving the code responsible for sending Voyager status reports, sending it to its new location in the FDS memory on April 18th. They received confirmation that the strategy worked on April 20th when the first data on the spacecraft's health since November arrived on Earth. In the next several weeks, the team will relocate the parts of the FDS software that can start returning science data. So presumably they will have to figure, that means they've got write access to the memory from 15 billion miles away, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And in my head, I'm just picturing, and I don't know if this is what it is, but I'm picturing assembly code where they're okay, well, let's put this function over here and then just put a jump instruction and jump past this bad area of memory. And I mean, who knows? I don't know what that is, but you know, I'm familiar with, what we used to do in software to, hook functions is, just go replace the first few bytes of this function with the jump to another place. And then once you're done with the little hook you want to do, you jump back to where you were. It's good.
Yeah, and you and I are not young, but this is older than us. This is stuff we looked at as kids going, that's old.
This is true. So, anyway, but I just, and I guess then the other thing is they must, presuming that the entire memory was full and they didn't have spare space, then they must have to choose what not to put back or what not to relocate or what to stomp over. And I don't know. I'm sure that they are having to make some very interesting decisions, but congratulations to the Voyager team for keeping it going, keeping it real. I'm picturing, will it outlive me? I mean, I don't know. That'll be fun. Be fun to know. So anyway, there's amazing. My something fun.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Cool.
There you go.
All right.
All right, my friend.
We'll see you next time.
Call it a show. All right. I'll talk to
right.
you later, Eric.
Later.
Bye.
Bye.